And we're back. The Bags and Boards podcast, number 79. Can you believe it, Jeff? It's been almost 2 years since we've sat down to have a conversation outside of the Hot 10 and some of our very curated videos.
It doesn't feel like it's been that long, but I'm so glad we're finally doing this again.
Well, you know what? I was on the phone with you the other day. We do a lot of scripting before the shows, and all of a sudden, I just start hearing screaming in the background, and I couldn't believe it. I'm like, what is going on? I think your wife and your daughter maybe just yelling, and you're like, oh, wait, what is that? And apparently there was a mouse that broke into your home, and this story ends in you saying, oh, damn, I gotta call you back, Tom. I'm bleeding all over the place.
Sort of like how it happened. So I have a cat, and this cat goes outside, and every once in a while brings in a present. And this present just happened to be alive, and it was a mouse that got loose in the house.
So you're like talking about AF-15, and you're getting into X-Men 1 stuff, and the next thing I know is I hear, oh my God, Jeff! Just people screaming in the background. You're like, hold on, Tom. You're kind of juggling the list and like, okay, but the 9.4, oh geez, like you're just doing comic book stuff and just straight up dad stuff at the same time.
Yeah, I was like, okay, apparently I'm gonna have to be the one to act here. So I was like, Tom, you gotta just hold on a second. So I'm chasing this mouse, making sure it doesn't crawl behind a couch or under a couch or something. So you're like, I'm trying to corner it. I'm running, I'm diving. Okay, I'm like grabbing things because I don't want to get bit either. It's a freaking mouse. So I get it kind of in a corner. I grab its tail and I'm shaking it like this so it doesn't bite me. Okay, so I'm shaking. I rip open the slider and I freaking launch it, flies outside. It lands safely in a bush. And like, I'm like, okay. And I look at my palm and I was like, oh no, did I get bit? I'm concerned. Okay, and I'm looking at it, I'm bleeding. And I was like, okay, I don't think it was a bite. And what happened is when I like dove for it, I like stuck my hand into my HVAC vent and like punctured my hand a little bit, which I'm fine, guys. Thank you for the concerns. But hey, no mice are found in my house anymore yet. And I'll let you know because this cat is freaking terrorizing the freaking yard. It's driving me like I get upset because I'm like, dude, just leave these guys alone.
But they love doing it. Comic Butch, you know, he's known for a lot of things on the show, but one thing he likes to do is drown things in his water bowl. Anything he can find. Sometimes those things are alive. Sometimes they're inanimate objects. Do you own a cat? Clearly, I'm a cat dude. I got a dog as well. There's a lot of pet owners in the community. I mean, Russ is straight up not an animal person. That's not something we've talked about on the mic, I don't think ever. So we may have to get him back here to discuss his, you know, he definitely likes animals, but he doesn't like living with them. And I definitely respect that. I want to know if you have an animal, let us know what you have in the comment section below. Today, we're going to get into some touchy subjects because really I'm trying to bridge the gap between conversations we have on the phone together and then what just kind of gets left on the editing room floor. And there was this story about a comic that your friend took a major hit on. And that got us discussing those moments in time where we have to look at an investment as a fail, kind of come to reality of, is this a like appropriately valued comic book right now? Do I hold it? Or is this just what it's worth that I overspent? I also want to get into some things about the price hikes that comics experienced over the last 5 years, because we talk about the comic boom a lot. So hit the subscribe button, slap the like button, and Jeff, hit him with this first appearance of T'Challa story, because I've been on the mic multiple times talking about how I think this book is undervalued, but is it? And how do we kind of come to terms with, you know, figuring out that question?
Yeah, man, right now we're just trying to find what is the baseline for comics in general. And it feels like every comic book is kind of on its own journey. That's one of them. For me, you know, my friend had this book. If you bought a book in 2021 or 2022, you're going to feel this pain of like overspending. He bought an FF52 and an 8.5, and he spent $6,650. Okay, the last high of that book was this year was $3,000. And that's not even the average. The average is like 2,400-ish. But he did what a lot of us are probably coming to grips with. And it's like, I'd rather have the money and put it in something else at this point. Because to recapture those dollars that we saw in 2021 and 2022, I don't think is realistic. And it's unfair to expect that. And if that's what you're hoping for, you may not see that for 15 years. And that's probably only due to inflation. You know, maybe the weakening of the dollar might get you there. So it's what's worth it to you? So for him, he sold it and he sold it at auction. And this guy has a platform, but he decided to send it to auction and he only got $2,039 for it.
Now, that's a tough thing, but like really in any given year, we experience this. I mean, I've taken hits, I've had wins, but there's the big losses, those kind of stick with you. You don't really forget those numbers when you have to like let that book go and come to terms that you probably overspent at some point.
It's true, but I will tell you this from experience. Once the book is gone, it's gone. Like when you have that book still in your house and you look at it, it's a reminder. Like I have books that I've seen drop. Not saying that I necessarily lost money because I was actually very fortunate. I had a lot of books before the boom that I had to move through. So I didn't buy that much in 2021 and 2022. I was actually doing a lot of selling. So it was very fruitful for me at that time. Really wish I sold everything, to be honest, with those numbers because everything is down like years later still, which is kind of wild to think. But I have books that have lost value and I'll look at them and it'll remind me, it's like, I should have sold it.
Do you have any books that you have this like history with because maybe you took a loss or you regret not buying it? So now you look at it differently, like just a personal vendetta with that key book. You're like, oh, I don't mind not picking up that book, even though I should, because I have this weird story attached to it that's very personal.
Yeah, I mean, I'm trying to really think. Like, I have a lot of timelies, and I look at timelies, and timelies were super hot and popular. And I look at them now, and they're kind of softer and weaker. And I'm like, do I pick them up? Do I sell my copies and buy a different one? Do I consolidate and get something grander? I'm just trying to think if there's a book in my collection right now that I regret buying. And I gotta tell you, I try not to have that anymore because I've been there, man, and I've like looked at stuff that I've overpaid on. And like I said, the reminder hurts more. Now, the regret of not buying something for me is always larger. Like I should have picked it up but didn't, than the regret of buying it and being like, oh, I took a loss.
There was an interesting thing that took place because back before you were leading the Hot 10, Jem Mint took the seat. And Jem bought comics over the course of many years of his life, but he kind of got serious into investing while covering the Hot 10. And he was the dude that covered the comic boom with me. So we had a perspective here seeing this on a week by week basis of like, all right, we have the data. Some of this stuff actually seems pretty safe, and we wanted to be, part of it. We wanted to participate in what was happening in the marketplace. And he bought a bunch of copies. Like it was like 2 or 3 copies of the first appearance of Submariner in FF issue 4.
Oh, I saw that. Yeah,
and he
yeah,
took
yeah.
a huge hit. And I think that was playing a factor into how much he was willing to risk in the comic collectible marketplace. I mean, clearly there was a very different version of him post taking the hit on those books. Cause at the time, you never knew what was going to happen. But like that particular book, there was a lot of like opportunity. And he also was a great character that debuted in Black Panther, but we haven't seen anything from Namor in quite some time. And I think that's what a lot of these books are suffering is like the hang time from their introduction has not done well as it pertains to like how far they've come and the peaks that they've reached. And then at the same time, the census count that we're battling along the way, the books aren't getting more scarce is what it appears.
Yes, true. I think it's unfair to expect books to go up because of the shows and movies. Again, you will not see those numbers for a very, very, very long time. And I think it was just this blip to take something from, the Gauntlet and Infinity War saga, where we saw something in time that just will not happen again. And for, like I said, years, maybe a decade.
What goes into this like decision for you when you're having to make that assessment, when you're looking at that book that you purchased? You may not have an example off the cuff right now, but you've been there. What does that process go like? What does that thought process look like for you? Do you have like maybe a potential buyer in mind? And now you're like, okay, is this the time? Do you wait for that buyer? Do you wait for that like news to land where you're like, okay, well, this may be the opportunity? Or is it just a gut decision of I've had enough. It's been too long. I don't want to see it anymore.
Oh, yeah. I mean, if I have an out to somebody where I think I'm getting fair value,
well, assuming that it's taken a hit, like what is fair value? How do you come to that decision?
it's a personal decision, every single one of those, because it's guttural. It's like, do I value the money more now? Do I value pride? And we all know what Marcellus called pride, right? In Pulp Fiction. So like I'm at the ilk of like F pride. Okay, take your money, reinvest it in something else that's not going to be the reminder. So again, it's that simple. Where are you right now with it? Does it hurt to look at? If it hurts to look at, why do you want it? Right? Get rid of it and put into something that you're going to appreciate and like more.
Do you ever trade? Is that ever something that kind of plays a role in these decisions? Like, you know what, maybe I can not make it hurt as much by putting it or rolling it into something else like directly?
Sure. I mean, whatever's going to get you off that dislike. If it's a trade, which is usually much harder, trades can be tough, but it can maybe be fortunate enough, but it's hard. Sometimes it convolutes things. Sometimes you want it quick and done, whatever it
I've
is.
compounded loss off trades. I've gone from getting out of something that was taking a hit and then rolled it into something else. And then that book that I came from, I should have held on to it a little bit longer because it actually rebounded a bit. And the book I rolled the money into actually went down in price. One of the more recent ones was First Appearance of Ultron. You know, I was really optimistic about that book. And then the movie came out and I thought it was great, but I think there's like this community perception that's one of the weaker Avengers films.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I know you're right about the trading. You can maybe get lucky. But people, there's so much information now, and it's so easy to access, and people are hedging their bets. So it's tough, like to really get more value out of it. Because for them, they're like, well, I need more margins, okay, because now I'm trading like one, two, three books into one. So now they have to take one sale into three sales potentially, because sometimes you usually combine stuff to get a bigger item. That's usually what people are doing. They're not usually trading like for like. That's rare.
True.
So it's not the best situation to be in. I think a lot of people are getting past that because they're becoming maybe more savvy with the hobby now, and things are have started to plateau, and there's no crazy spikes. It's just now hopefully just growing consistently where you can monitor it easier and not get caught up in something.
Well, we're going to get into some of these like crazy spikes here in a second. Make sure to hit comictom.com, join the mystery mail call. We have a subscription service. We've been doing it for over 7 years, every single month. Every 29 days, we serve our community with some of the dopest covers we can possibly make. And one per box is a Ryan Benjamin ASM 300 homage on Bad Ideas, Planet Death. They have officially taken over the mystery mail call this month and have infiltrated the channel. So make sure to keep an eye out on the mystery mail call updates found over on Instagram. Follow the Golden Age Guru on Instagram too, because you're doing sales like every single day.
Yeah, I try to do them Monday through Friday at 10 a.m. Pacific Standard Time, and then also doing some Whatnot sales, hopefully twice a week now.
Yeah, I see you up on Whatnot, man.
Yeah,
Holding
you
a
do.
pretty big audience over there, selling some books for cheap. How you feeling?
I'm feeling good. I'm actually enjoying it. It's been a while, so it's good to be back.
The Whatnot community is insane. We love it. We have so much fun live selling and chatting with all of the homies who watch the show, a lot of more interactive than we can be just here on YouTube. Let's talk about the elephant in the room with almost every video that we make, because we have in comic history prices that we reference, but most of them are fairly recent, right? Because that's all that really matters. You know, who really cares about a high sale that happened in 2017 when the market has done this mostly, but now we're kind of correcting. We're in this more like new normal situation. Well, the comic boom, 2020 to like 2022, early 2022, mostly end of 2021, had some of the greatest sales in comics ever take place in comic book history. And when we're giving analysis, it's like we're a freaking broken record having to repeat, well, these are the highs that this one book reached 3 or 4 years ago. And it gets old comparing current prices when we know that those prices are long gone. They were very temporary. Some of these high markers were literally weeks. They only hit these prices for under 30 days and they adjusted really quick. But man, those swings are pretty crazy. I want to hit you with a couple of them. Hulk 181, 2022 high of a 9.8 reaching $138,000. Recent sale, $72,000 this year.
And that's actually a fairly good price this year, too, for that book, because it was hitting even lower than that. I remember 9/8 of Hulk 181 were doing 100,000 pretty much almost regularly for a short period of time. And I had a lot of Hulk 181s. So that's one of actually my biggest regrets. is not selling my Hulks that I had. And I had, just to remind you guys, 26 Hulk 181s at one point.
It's
Okay.
one of our most popular podcasts, by the way. You should check that out. We went through grading them all, pricing them all. The video took a long time to make.
It did. And by the time I got around to grading them all and then selling them, the market had completely flipped. So that was one of the biggest wake up calls to me of like, Jeff, you need to now move these and get out because you're never going to see that. And it's unfair to these books to measure them against that stick. But yeah, it was a crazy time for that Hulk book.
I think there's something to be said about census count. I think we're one of the few channels that really tracks CGC's participation in the marketplace. And not to say that they're doing anything wrong, but it's a third party that absolutely impacts the prices of these comic books in ways that you may not expect. Over the months throughout the comic boom, there was such a boom in submissions that some books just didn't get graded nearly fast enough. And when they were hitting these peaks, it was because there was just low availability. You know, some books were only coming up once a month. Now we're seeing some of these books get graded at 9.8 once a day. And we can look at those, you know, that bar graph of some of these comic books that peaked and then 8 months later took a huge tank because that's how long it was taking CGC to pump out the grades. And that's not their fault. You know, when the market moved in this direction, they had to compensate. And we had reported on like hiring blitzes and them doing like seminars to like try to recruit people to start to learn how to grade and to grow their staff so they can keep up with just how many comic books were being submitted. And over the years, we've actually began to see beyond just really scarce variants get graded to such a high extent, but like very common books, you know, Wolverine 1 and New Mutants 98, when you started to do the Hot 10, you quickly saw what we were seeing and reporting on weekly. Wow, the grades are outdoing the demand, and we're seeing some people pay $1,500 for a New Mutant 98, and now we're seeing people get it for under $1,000, and that was the highest grossing R-rated film of all time.
It was such a craze. And right now, like you're saying, we are oversaturated with books, but I also don't feel like, I feel like a lot of people entered the hobby through the pandemic timeframe because they had more time on their hands. And I don't think they truly had the experience and knowledge of how many copies are actually out there on so many key books. And now we're really seeing it with CGC's turnaround times. And people are grading these books because they had them raw. And so we're just getting that flux now. And so these prices, I'd like to think, are going to be kind of what the new normal is. And we're going to see steady growth. And again, these movies and shows will help a little bit because it just puts these characters into the public domain more. And, you know, people are going to get interest in them again and exposure, and then they'll sell more, and then we'll just see more growth. So I like where it is now more than where it was because it was such a like wild, wild west time frame of just like craziness going on with prices. You couldn't even keep everybody when you had a sale online, people were just claiming everything. Claim, 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 claim. And you're just like, what is going on? This is amazing. But then it's also scary.
Back in 2021, a Giant Size X-Men #1 hit $72,000, a recent sale for $36,000 this year. You know, and there are people that during that time frame, you're right, it was scary. They see these prices. Some of them sold, and in as little as like a month was regretting that they sold it because they should have waited not a year, not 2 years, like 30 more days. Like you can't time this stuff. I'm curious your thoughts on this though. In the early 90s, and we even have friends who are still around selling comic books. I'm thinking of Garcia over at Silver Age Comics, who told me that he had employees selling Turok 1s on the streets of Manhattan, right? So back then, clearly, there were people who were part of the market who didn't have a whole lot of comic knowledge, but they were participating. They were buying this stuff, hoping to, you know, pay off their tuition and get their kids' cars and stuff with Turok 1 investments. Well, there was like kind of something similar happening in 2020, 2021. Like there were people that had never bought comics before, some people who were pretty wealthy that were putting money together to get some Batman 1s and Detective 27s and like these really big blue chip books. And I think there was some of that as well going on. People that were new to the marketplace buying and investing because they're seeing what, like at the time, NFTs were doing and various collectible markets. And fast forward, how many of these people are still buying Pokemon? How many of these people are still investing in NFTs? How many of these people are still buying comic books? And I have to imagine it's less.
Yeah, it's funny you said that because it reminds me of a story I had with somebody there who was, like you said, collectibles in general were really hot. And Pokemon right now is still freaking hot, by the way, in case you don't know. But NFTs, yeah, they've kind of died. I was like checking out the VV stuff and getting NFT things and exploring. And it's just like you see these books selling for so much, but then you're like, oh, wait, my collection's worth so much. So you're scared, but you're also like, wait, I can cover my ass because I can sell all these other books too to still get this. And I'm okay because I have so much value. I had somebody offer me a Hulk 181 and a 98 for 100,000. Okay. A Fleer Jordan rookie, like it was a graded 10 for 100,000. So they were selling for the same amount at that time. Okay. So this guy had like 5 or 6 other collectors. I can't remember the others because they just weren't of interest to me. But like, you're right. People were just diving in. Watches, Rolexes were going bonkers, cars. So it was just a really, like you said, a wild time in general. And, $72,000 to 36. I don't know, man. That just feels more correct than the 70 did back then.
I mean, dude, some of these prices that we're reporting on, when it sounds bad, it's a huge steep. But if you go back like 3 to 5 years on some of these books, they were selling cheaper than what we're reporting on the low end. They went up and then they're now correcting. I mean, at this point, what is your recommendation as it pertains to people who are considering these high prices? I'm sure there's a lot of people who have been burned. So obviously, respect to that. I've been burned. Freaking terrible, like nuclear waste on my body kind of burns because you took risks. I took risks. I mean, dude, I have like first America Chavez. I wish I didn't have it right now. I mean, I spent a lot of money on some of these next gen heroes. So that's really my stories are kind of banking on the next gen that clearly hasn't paid off. Like we're still waiting on a lot of these next gen heroes to even get their time on the big screen. What do you recommend for people when they're considering these prices and what they went for versus like what they can be acquired for now?
Yeah, I mean,
do you throw out those prices? Do you pretend like they don't happen?
Yeah, you can't pretend they don't happen because if you're in that situation, you can't forget it.
Right.
It's not something to forget. It's you coping with it, and hopefully it's not something that has turned you off from the hobby. And that's the biggest thing. How many people did we lose because they got scathed and burned from this? Hopefully not many, because it's a better place when there's more people in this hobby, in my opinion. So it's taking your blows and bouncing back and getting back up and realizing that this is a better place for you to be jumping into now and knowing more about the hobby. Now you've learned. Okay, unfortunately, you came in maybe at a really bad time, but now it's a good time. And look at it in a positive way because now there's opportunity again. There's consistency. Hopefully, you can get into some comfort and pick up those books that you were overspending on, and now you can get them for less. And hope that is enough for you to stay in comics and continue to enjoy it.
Yeah, there are also some books that have grown a lot. It's not like it's all bad. I think that's one thing about the comic industry that makes people pretty excited to stick with it is that even though you may see fluctuations in some of these IPs like trading cards, I mean, the sports cards market hit a crazy drop. Like we're talking like 90% on a lot of stuff. People lost like freaking mortgages, houses, in money. And I'm sure there's people who lost a lot of money in comics as well. But at least there are examples of comics that have actually gone up. And there's quite a few of them. We talk about them on the show. Hit the subscribe button. We have some viewer comments I wanted to get to. I want to hit you with them. I have not reviewed them with you. That's kind of what we've been doing. I kind of like to surprise the hosts on the show. This is from Kevin D2R2I. Thanks for leaving a comment on the recent Hot 10. Lots of cool books way out of my price range. Thanks, guys. I thought this would be a fun one because as far as the Hot 10 goes, we talk about a lot of the same books. Because they're the hottest books in the world, the hottest back issues. They hold that spot for a reason. What advice would you give people who think that the Hot 10 is a lot of the same? Because it is, but also that, where's the opportunity within learning about these key books that we are talking about?
Where's the opportunity in learning about these key books? I guess the opportunity comes into some of the other suggestions we give you guys for more second tiers or surrounding books, I would I'm a big believer in looking where people aren't. And I've talked about that before. So if we're looking at for a long time, everyone was talking about ASM 300 on our list. And I was like, what about 252? 252. No one's talking about 252. And then it took a little bit, and all of a sudden, 252 became a really hot book on our list. Talking about ASM 121, it's on our hot 10. I mentioned that book already months ago that people should be looking in that direction. You just kind of, you learn the keys. For me, you learn all the keys: the bronze, the silver, copper, depending on how far you want to go. And then you see what's getting really hot, and you're like, oh, you know what? It was a key before, it'll be a key again. And you go to those keys when you get the opportunity, and there people are like least interested for a short time frame, because that's what happens. It's cyclical. People just kind of go away from it until it's again something that they remembered, or the price dropped a little bit. You're like, oh, I should pick that book up. I forgot about that one. So that's my biggest advice. Look where most people aren't looking. And if you get an opportunity to pick up a great book at a great price, great, do it. But until then, learn all that you can. And also go look at like swap meets, garage sales. Like, why buy retail? I'm all about buying stuff on the hunt. That's your best friend, is just going out there, letting everybody that you collect comic books, because you never know where you get that phone call from. My dentist found me one of the greatest collections I have ever had the opportunity to purchase.
Yeah, I actually was thinking about that a little bit because I just moved, and I'm not somebody who really likes to like get to know my neighbors that well. Like I like my privacy, but I've been in a lot of positions right now, or like a lot of like moments just recently where I'm meeting new people, and I always kind of struggle to tell them what I do and comic books this. And it's like, but then, yeah, as I'm like moving out of my last place, my neighbor, who I've only said hi to a few times, dude who's like chain smokes outside a bunch, really nice guy. He tells me, oh, dude, I think I saw you on an ad or something. It's like a whatnot ad. He's like, do you do like comic book stuff? And so turns out he's got like 30 longs at his house, at his dad's house. And he's been trying to get rid of them. And he's like, can you please take them from me? I just need to get them out of there. I'm like renting out a spot, and I've had them since the 80s. And it's like such a true thing. You got to like let people know. And really, if you're kind of like a more of an introvert, like this, it's good practice, like just let everybody know that you like comic books. You may find a common interest within that, but then also you may find some damn comic books, because if they have somebody that they know that has comic books, you may be able to be that person that kind of gets roped on in. Oh, I know a guy, puts me outside of my comfort zone. I've always appreciated that about comics. Rogue X01 said this, because we had kind of like posed a question to the community, because ASM 300 has been trending around the $25,000 to $3,000 marker for quite some time now, at a 9.8, first full Venom. Well, another book that has been struggling to be around that $3,000 marker was a Star Wars #1. And we had thrown it out there, like, which do you think is cooler? Which one would you prefer? Which would make the most sense to invest in right now? Well, Rogue said, I pick an ASM 300 over a Star Wars 198, even though they are closely priced. What do you think about that? Because, dude, I think I would pull the trigger on a Star Wars 1 at a 9.8 over ASM 300.
God, that's let me see my gut.
I mean, dude, we just went over the ASM 300 census. I mean, dude, there are a total of over 1,700 9.8s of ASM 300. That's so many copies, dude.
It is so many copies, and like my
1,749.
My inner child says I should take ASM 300 9.8, but like my mind, my business mind wants to just do an Star Wars 1 and a 9.8. And I feel like I see less Star Wars 1 and 9.8s at a convention. So like, yeah, I'm going to go with the Star Wars 1 9.8. It's just a little bit more difficult to find and more special when you see it.
See, that's my gut. Does that then make sense to think that maybe Star Wars 1 is a little undervalued, or maybe ASM 300 is overvalued?
Yeah, because I don't know how many Star Wars 1s there are in a 9.8. But I know there's a lot still out there.
Something funny. I have Star Wars 1 literally on my screen right now.
Right.
I can tell you exactly how many 9.8s there are. Hit that subscribe button. We give you the data when it's literally sitting in front of us. There are 1,040 9.8s of Star Wars 1. 1977, though. A lot older than ASM 300.
Right, right, but it is a lot older, and it's yes, a lot older, still a lot printed, but yeah, I think I would go the Star Wars one. Yeah, I think so.
Let us know what you think in the comment section below. Do you go Star Wars 1 or ASM 300? This is what Chris Bailey had to say. What are your thoughts on Ultimate Fallout number 4, the 1 in 25 variant? It's gone down so much from its peak. Is now a good time to buy it? So I figured this could be a fun one because I haven't looked this up in a minute. Because isn't it kind of crazy that Miles hasn't been introduced in the Sonyverse, that they would prioritize Craven and Madam Web, even though that movie's underrated, like before taking Miles Morales to the live action screen? I mean, they have so much success with the animation that you'd think that this would have happened by now. But we're talking, I think, arguably, probably the biggest modern key of the comic boom, right? Like this was the leader. This was the one that took everything from the like whatever floor it was. This is the multiplier. How well did Ultimate Fallout 4 perform? That determined what all the other next gen heroes were doing, all other modern books that were of interest. I mean, people were banking on Miles, and I think for good reason. The 1 in 25 Djevic variant is what we're talking about today. That book is tough and high grade. We saw some crazy sales of this book. Let's see how high they went.
Jeez Louise, I think it was over $35,000 in a 9.8 at some point for Djevic.
Okay, so for the variant edition of Ultimate Fallout 4, heights were reached according to GPA of $43,200 in 2023. The last 9.8 happened this year, 2025, for $9,800 publicly.
Oh my God. I feel like I've seen it on Instagram for offered in the $8,000 range already.
Man, that is a crazy, crazy drop. It's hard to argue that this may not be a great time for the book.
Let's not be ridiculous. Okay. First off, I don't care where comics were. $43,000 for this book was ridiculous. Ridiculous. There is no reason a modern book, 1 in 25, I don't give a hoot, should have been $43,000. Okay. And honestly, to see it even at almost $10,000 to me sounds obnoxious, but I'll allow it. Okay. Let's just say there. But $43,000, I am sorry. I don't care how much Miles Morales is loved or liked, but that's just, you're kidding yourself that a modern book should be anywhere near that.
Okay, well, let's actually change it then. Instead of the 1 in 25, let's talk about the standard version of the book. Heights were reached of 2022 for essentially $4,500. Recent sale, $805. Low sale this year, $675. Sub $1,000. If you're not looking to risk it on a $8,000+ book, I mean, sub 1,000 on Miles does seem pretty fair.
Oh yeah.
I mean, that doesn't seem absurd to me.
No.
I mean, just $600, dude. $675. I'd pick up a 9.8 for $675. So maybe the 1 in 25, too much of a roller coaster. Too many of them out there. Maybe people are just too scared of it at this point. You know, I can see that book creeping up, but man, are people going to spend more than $10,000 again on this book anytime soon, knowing that it just plunged $30,000? But a standard 9.8 at sub 1,000, I feel good about that.
Yeah, I'm with you on that one. A standard for $675 does sound to me like good value there and a place to get into this book. Because who are we kidding? Miles Morales has a future, and it's bright, and he's already created a generation of kids, considering that it's taken a decade to make 3 movies. It's going to be like, which is crazy to me that it's going to be this long. But hey, it's spectacular. People love the character. And so I think I can see that book being, after the next movie, $1,200, $1,000 again.
Let us know your thoughts in the comment section below. Like and subscribe. We have a handmade steak being impaled in this CGC giveaway. Cul-de-sac by Bad Idea. 36 were made. This thing's crazy, dude. We mentioned it on the Hot 10, but how wacky are Bad Idea, like, promotional items getting because they've gone full mainstream. You can order Bad Idea through Lunar. This is new in 2025. So they went from this kind of like boutique, only certain LCSs even have Bad Idea comics, to now anyone being able to order it. But they still are remembering their roots right now, you know, like doing some weird marketing plays.
Yeah, I mean, have fun with it for the love of God. It doesn't have to be so freaking serious. Let's change it up. Let's just do things and see what sticks.
I also appreciate that CGC is willing to play ball here because like this is their, you know, coveted slab that they're clearly willing to play with.
I don't know, man. I have a feeling after the Invisible comic that CGC just graded these books, and I think Bad Idea is just adding a stake after the fact, some aftermarket, something.
No, it says it on the solicit that CGC has graded it. It comes with a certificate. Let me read it to you. It says here, actual stake through the comic. So it says, this blood-soaked collectible masterpiece turned fine art installation took the two companies 7 months and required solving a very serious engineering challenge. How to drive a stake through a CGC holder without cracking the case or shattering it into a million pieces.
Oh yeah, I think they graded 9.4, and after the fact, Bad Idea put a stake through it. It has to be. There's no way it's in the plastic. If it's like manufactured that way, bro, that's crazy. I want to know the process to that. That would be wild.
Well, we're going to see it in person, so make sure to join the SMS group, comictom.com, put your phone number in to keep up with all the stuff that we do here, but it enters you to win giveaways, and this cul-de-sac launch is in July. FOC is early July, so get your pre-orders in, and expect to possibly win this graded slab that is unlike anything I've ever seen, but also not surprising because it's coming from Bad Idea. And we'll do a random winner, and we contact you through the SMS group. We get your phone number, find out your address, and that's how you participate henceforth until the end of time. As always,
Geek responsibly.
enough said.